Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to What If South is Up. On December 7th of last year, in Episode 5, Continental Drift, we discussed the idea of the continents or other inhabited landmasses being on the backs of giant creatures. This has been a common theme in the folklore of several cultures, particularly from Southeast Asia, and pop culture, with the idea being used in Nickelodeon's Avatar: The Last Airbender, its sequel series, The Legend of Korra, and more recently, in Disney's animated film, Strange World. When we recorded that episode, neither Xtina nor I had seen Strange World, but when we did, shortly after the episode aired, we couldn't help but marvel at the irony. The concept is creatively fascinating to us, so we decided to issue a call for flash fiction submissions centered on the theme of Continental Drift. Today, I would like to invite you to join me as one of our winners, Meg Lindsey, reads her submission, The Beasts of Kepa'nua, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as we did.
The Beasts of Kepa'nua. Inui loved underwater days. The time beneath the waves was predictable, calm, beautiful. The shifting lines of distorted light danced across her pale arms and gave texture to her porcelain face, her hueless hair. She was never for want of entertainment, as creatures of every size and color could always be seen past the unaging's bubble on the back of Kepa'nua. Yes, the underwater days were perfection. It was the days at the surface that she dreaded, and those were the days that kept them alive. They all knew Kepa'nua would not continue without its offering. If not fed, Kepa'nua and all of the unaging would wither into nothing, forever stranded at the surface. But the surface, unlike the ocean, was forever changing, and it was exhausting. Each century came with new generations, new technology, new trade routes, new cultures, so much chaos to keep up with. She wished she could stay forever submerged. But that was just not the reality of her world. And while only 1 in 13,000 days were spent at the surface, that one day would always come, as inevitable as the shells turned to sand. And today would not be an underwater day. As Kepa'nua rose from the depths, water cascaded in torrents across its sides, which closer resembled a cliff face for the millions of barnacles which coated them. The raw light from the sun cast dazzling reflections across the pools of water, which still filled the shallow dents and bends in Kepa'nua's shell. Around her, the unaging smiled and cheered, squinting in every direction to make sight of land. The island sat like a cancer on the horizon. Its buildings had increased, its plant life diminished, its skies smoggy. Inui felt her stomach turn. Seldom as these days were, when they did come, it took her years to recover. It was time for her hunt to begin. All of the unaging had various tasks assigned to them, some of which became all the more pressing on surface days. Inui's job was to find the child. The worst job, in her opinion. She would have taken any other duty, sewage disposal, fish deboning, shell scrubbing. But as the only child among the unaging for centuries, Inui was tasked with finding the surface child and abducting them. Children were so often warmed as strange adults. But she was not an adult. When they saw her face, heard her song, and considered her invitation for play, they were completely helpless. She was irresistible. The elder of Kepa'nua found her before long. With the coral flowers retracted, there was nowhere for her to hide anyway. "It's time, Inui," he said. It was her 16th surface. She didn't even try to resist anymore. It was futile. Inui bit her lip, her fangs sinking into her nearly translucent flesh with more force than she'd intended. "I know," she replied. With the elder's eyes on her back, she slunk over the side of Kepa'nua and into the water to swim towards shore. What awaited her there was nothing short of a nightmare. The coastal towns were dilapidated. Some parts were abandoned, some destroyed. But there were still people there. But there weren't any children. None. She searched the coves, the beaches. She swam from one town to the next. Each time she surfaced, she felt the knot in her stomach grow tighter and tighter. The people were so few, and the children were gone. A chill ran down her spine, causing her to shudder involuntarily. What could have possibly happened? Where had the children gone? And what did this mean for the unaging? If there were no children now, would there ever be? It seemed implausible. She swam as fast as her fins could take her from one cove to the next until night settled like a blanket across the water. Inui returned to Kepa'nua to make her explanation. And the unaging fell into uproar. Panic ensued, fighting, arguing. This would be their end. Without its offering, Kepa'nua would not go on. After a time, the elder stood and threw his arms to the side, calling for silence. The eyes of the unaging fell upon him, his hueless visage lit only by the moon and the stars above. "Be calm," he said, his gaze falling on Inui. "Kepa'nua will continue on. After all, there is still a child."
We would like to thank Meg once again for her wonderful submission. If you would like to learn more about Meg Lindsey and her work, she is featured on episode 10, Paper Dragons, and more information, including social network links, can be found on her website, www.meglindseyWrites.com.